Hello and welcome to At Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Seth Waugh, who's the CEO of PGA of America. Seth, great to see you.
Great to see you again, Andy. It's been a while.
It has. So tell us the difference between PGA of America and the PGA Tour. They're different organizations now, right?
They are, and it's confusing. My mother gets confused even in golf because there's a lot of things that end in A. But the PGA Tour runs the events you see every week. It's the tour players that play every week. PGA of America is the largest sports organization on earth. It has 28,000 members. So all the club professionals that you may be teaching you the game, those are our members. We own a number of properties in the professional game. We have the Ryder Cup, which is the greatest spectacle in the game. We own the PGA Championship, which is one of the four majors. We have the Women's PGA Championship, the KPMG, as well as the Senior, which is the KitchenAid Senior Championship. And then we run a variety of things throughout the course of the year. Our club professionals, we have effectively what we called our PGA Works Collegiate Championship, which is the HBCU National Championship. We have Junior League, which is fastest growing, sort of youth program in the world. And so the way I think about it is, sort of every other golf agency body has sort of one swimming lane. So you have the professional game with the PGA Tour, you have the USGA, which is rules, and the US Open, the RNA, which is the international version of that, the LPGA, which is the women's professional. And we are sort of the whole pool, right? Because we start with your first shot you hit through junior, and then the final shot you may hit. But we also have the pinnacle of the game at its very highest level. So we are mission-based, non-for-profit. Our mission is to grow the game and serve our members, make our theory being that if we can make 28,000 lives better, we can make millions of lives better through the game. And that's really how we think about it every day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to follow up on growing the game. How do you actually measure success, Seth? And I know you came from Wall Street, and we'll get to that in a second. So you're very metric-oriented, bottom-line-oriented. What about at PGA of America?
Yeah, so we look at, we have an association called the NGF, National Golf Foundation, which measures growth of the game every day. I wouldn't call it every day, but which measures the amount of rounds played. And we're getting much more sophisticated at it. It used to be that we'd measure golf by 18 holes played, and I don't think that's the right metric. If you and I went out and played, horse in our backyard, we would have played basketball that day. It wouldn't be 5-on-5 with, referees, but it would be some form of basketball. There's so many ways to consume the game now. We have par threes cropping up all over the place. You have putt-putt. You have off-course activities like Topgolf and Drive Shack and the like. And in fact, there's in fact more off-course golfers now for the first time in history than there are on course. We've had a real boom over the last 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years in particular. COVID was good to the game. We were the first game back from a participation standpoint, and that was very conscious. We had a program called Back to Golf, where we actually worked with through Dr. Fauci and others to bring it back as sort of a safe way to get people out of the house, out of your bedrooms, and participating. It was the first game back on television. The PGA Tour, Jay Monahan did a wonderful job there. We were the first major that came back without fans, and golf was one of the few sports that wasn't weird without fans, because you could actually see the beauty of the golf courses as opposed to the empty stands. And so the game, for the first time in its history, is not only growing, but is cool. And we're seeing the participation grow not only in numbers at all-time records, which has been sort of 20 to 25% growth, but it's growing in different ways. We have this abiding view that if we can kind of make the game look more like the rest of the world, maybe the world will behave a little bit more like the values of our beautiful game, which is all about integrity and respect and a lot of other things. And so we're really excited that every category in the game is growing. So it's first timers are at all-time record. The juniors are at an all-time record. And within those categories, the two fastest growing cohorts are actually females, so women or girls, and people of color. And so the game is really starting to look very differently than it has in the past, and we couldn't be more excited about what that means for the future of the game.
Somewhere I read a while ago that golf courses, though, where the number was contracting, but maybe that speaks to more people just playing with simulators or putt putt or other things. What's going on with the number of courses,
Yeah,
though?
well, that has been a trend, and there was, like a lot of other things, golf was overbuilt, and it was really effectively a real estate play, right? You could kind of create oceanfront property, if you will, by building a golf course, and the real estate around it was really the point of that, as opposed to golf. And so a lot of that did contract, sort of through the Great Recession, and through that period, we saw a real shrinkage of golf courses. That flattened out, sort of 5 or 6 years ago, and now the trend is absolutely to grow some more. I hope we don't overbuild again. And I think you tend to, and all these things have a bit of a boom bust. But right now, because of the growth of the new golfers, we're worried about access. You can create all these golfers, but where can they play? And so we're very keen on one of the foundation pillars of our foundation is called A Place to Play, which is the effort to help restore public golf, wherever it is, whether that's municipal golf or other forms. And so we're trying to endow our foundation to the point where we can make sure that if we create all these golfers, grow the game, that we actually have affordable ways for people to access it.
Seth, I know that most of your purview is the ordinary golfer, but I want to ask you about the professional tour as well, and what's going on with LIV golf versus
Sure.
the traditional league here.
You're the first person that's ever asked. So yeah, look, a number of things. Look, I think in some ways it's a compliment to the game, right? And you and I have lived in a world of disruption our whole life, right? I came from Wall Street, and that's sort of our purview, right? You disrupt or you go backwards, and so golf, is hot and exciting and never been better from a participation standpoint, from a viewership standpoint, and so it's not a surprise that there's an attempt to disrupt. I think and I've been very consistent on this beginning. The things you need to disrupt, however, are a better product or a better price, or both, right? And I don't think this is a better product, and haven't thought from the beginning. Again, we're all for the game, so if this was a better idea, we'd be all for it. Frankly, we just don't think it is. The price is very different. It's very, rather than sort of betting on yourself and killing to eat, if you will. This has become much more contractual, which we think takes out some of the hunger in the game as well. The team aspect of it really hasn't taken off, and so I've been concerned, as a lot of other people have been from the beginning, that this really wasn't a sustainable business model, and that seems to be playing out. We don't really see any much sponsorship issue, unless I'm missing something. The television is, sort of more or less non-existent in the viewership, and so we're just not sure, how this survives other than continuing funding. And so, that's where we stand with it. We think there's a better way to access the ecosystem than sort of what's gone on. But we'll see. Obviously, they continue to play, and they've recruited some very good players, and we'll see how it works out.
Quick follow up: is there something to learn from it in terms of the team play? I mean, you have the Ryder Cup, which is teams, but are there more ideas like that might be
Yeah,
fruitful?
I think we're always looking for new ideas, and you're going to see more and more kind of co-ed golf that'll be played. And some of that'll be team, some of that'll be individual. We think that's interesting. The thing about the Ryder Cup that's so unique is it's sort of the Olympics games and the Super Bowl and a Stones concert rolled into one, and it's somewhat tribal, right? And people playing for their country or playing for their continent. And that's really hard to replicate. You can't recreate, the Red Sox against the Yankees or Duke, North Carolina, or whatever rivalry you want to talk about. And that's what the Ryder Cup is all about. And I think I'm not sure that this form of team play is as exciting as they had hoped.
I mentioned you were a banker, Seth. You ran Deutsche Bank North America. You worked at Silver Lake. What's the difference between working on Wall Street and running a golf organization?
Lately, not much. This crisis seems to follow me around, unfortunately. But first COVID, and then this new existential threat. But I think, and I don't know that I'm a good one, but leadership is kind of leadership, right? And so the basic tenets of leading and business acumen, and you know, taking care of your people and thinking through hard problems, and being very team oriented on that is all very much the same. But there's a lot of difference in a mission based. I used to have shareholders that you worried about investors. Here we have members, right? And so it's a different structure entirely. And the when I was asked to do this, I was sort of debating in my own mind how to do it, and I realized that I'll never have, and I came from a family of teachers, I'll never have a chance to impact more lives than I have now, and so that sort of fulfillment is very high. And when I called around to ask some advice of people, I called Rob Manfred, who's a good friend, who's the commissioner of MLB. And I sort of asked him, and he said, "Well, Seth, here's how I think about it. If there aren't that many jobs in sports, which is kind of how I grew up, youngest of 5 boys, playing everything I could get my hands on, and my father was a teacher and a coach. And he said there aren't that many, jobs in sports where you can really make a difference. And if you get offered one, you're probably supposed to take it. And so I'm very, it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done because of the chance to have that impact."
And you're a golfer too. I don't know. I'm not a golfer, so I don't know if it's couth to ask, but what's your handicap?
I'm about a 9 handicap.
That's pretty darn
So,
good, I think.
well,
Yeah,
hanging on for dear life in single digits.
single digits, right. And let me ask you finally, Seth, about technology and what your thinking is there and what that can do to help drive the game forward.
Yeah, again, we invite disruption, right? And the game is changing. If you talk about one of our great partners, which is Callaway Golf, who recently bought Topgolf, recently, a couple of years ago. And they now think of themselves as a technology company. So every year
They still make the clubs?
they still make the clubs, still make the balls, still sponsor a number of players, still obviously hugely important. But they now also have a business called Top Tracer, which is technology that is on golf ranges, so that you can track. It's sort of that same thing you see on television, where the ball, you can see where the ball is going through the tracer. They now do that at ranges as well, and it was interesting at our PGA show, which is the largest gathering of business of golf and of the year. We do it in Orlando in January, and Callaway flipped the model where it was really more about Top Tracer this year for them than it was equipment, because of the product cycles and things that go on. And so, we're again ripe for disruption in a lot of ways. It had been somewhat of a sleepy industry. When I came in, it was all about trying to create a culture of innovation and sort of forward leaning. And so it is becoming crowded in certain places with ways to do it. The ability to do everything on your phone is absolutely there. We're trying to create, sort of the open table sort of more or less, super highway for our members to book, everything online, whether it's merchandise sales to lessons to tee times to communicating, and so we're building a system for that, to do that, and making that open architecture so that everybody can kind of put their technology through there as well. So technology is very much a part of the game, and by the way, this new generation kind of expects it, right? We had eyes on us and never saw our swings, and in my case, that's a good thing. But now you can track every swing you have through whatever device, TrackMan, Top Tracer, and video it and watch on your phone. Every lesson that's ever been given. So we welcome it, and it's absolutely here to stay, and will continue to evolve for sure.
Seth Waugh, CEO of PGA of America, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Andy. It's great to see you again.